give me feedback on that. And then I'll start recording the meets. Okay, can I get a mic check and verify that you can see the Jamboard slide 15? Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we talked about all these different types of frameworks. And we chose Python, and within Python we have the choice of a framework and a micro framework, and Django is pretty popular, so we went with Django. But all these frameworks, they pretty much they offer the same common features. So I'm gonna try and lay out those common features so that when we do go into Django, you can kind of see those features in action. So again, we have your user. He or she has a machine, and in it has a browser. And then when you type in a URL on your browser, the browser goes out into the internet and then reaches a server, which is just another it's just another machine, but optimized for serving web pages, RAM and hard disk and all that router stuff. So the first step is that it sends. How do I undo? The first step is it sends. HTTP request, or S if it's secured, which it should be. Then the server. So you have the host name. So like google.com is the host name. And with the host name is able to reach the server. And when it gets to the server then parses whatever's in back. So this is called a path and query parameters. So based on the path and the query parameter, the server can reach out to a database, either within the same machine or remotely. Back in the day, it probably would have been the same machine, but nowadays it's probably another database somewhere else in the cloud somewhere. So the actual application that's running on the server, based on the path and query parameters, able to reach out to a database or multiple databases, get data back, right? And then generate some HTML, CSS based based off of the data and then gives it back to the browser, which then displays the page. So what you've been doing with your VS Code, you've been creating a file, HTML file, CSS file, JavaScript file. You've been creating it manually and then opening it in the browser. But this server, this application, I ran out of colors. But this server or this application right here, I mean, all those files is just a long string, right? It could programmatically take data and just generate a string with HTML tags, CSS attributes, selectors, and then give it back to the browser. We've been creating it manually and giving it to the browser, but this application can dynamically create these files and then give it back to the browser. So that's, in a nutshell, what a lot of these frameworks do. So we're going to dive in a little deeper into this application here. So this is what the Django would be. The black box would be our Django. Django application. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? Okay. So on slide 16, so within Django application, again, it's listening, right? It's listening for the HTTP. It has that host name, and then the path, and then some query parameters. So first, it's got to listen for this path, this path, and query parameters. So that's usually called the route. In Django, that's kind of your URL file. That's the route. And then based on that, it directs it to kind of a controller that kind of, based on what's in the path and the query parameter, it decides what it needs to do. So it could reach out to a database, and they usually call that a model. The code that interacts with a database or interacts with data is usually the model. And then once it has that data, it merges it with a view. And that's usually like your HTML stuff. Your p tag, and inside here is your data and your closing p tag. So it kind of merges the data with a view template, and then it ships it back. It's called a response. Usually it's called a response. So the controller then responds to your original call with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is what people referring to the MVC architecture or framework, model view controller. Django, in Django, the route is the URL. The controller, I just name it urls.py. The controller is kind of, they call it the views.py. And then the view is kind of like the templates. I forgot what the extension was. I think it was just HTML. And then the models, there's a file called models.py. So Django is an MVC framework, and all MVCs have a model view controller. So the model is the data, the view is how you present it, and because we're a web app, it's going to be HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So the controller kind of like manages it all. And usually there's service objects, but that's and they kind of do the things that doesn't really relate to the model or the view or controller. They might be calling another service API or doing some parsing for you, like a parser or a transformer. And those are just like plain old objects. So it could be plain old Python objects, plain old Java objects, plain old Ruby objects. That's what they're saying. It's just a normal class that does some kind of processing for you. But at the heart of the framework is the MVC, model view controller. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop the video and fix my audio probably.